Side Hustle Show 72, How to Earn a Full-Time Living Buying and Selling on Craigslist.
Welcome to the Side Hustle Show, where aspiring part-time entrepreneurs learn how to turn their side hustle dreams into reality. Because your 9 to 5 may make you a living, but your 5 to 9 makes you alive. And now, your host, Nick Loper.
Hey everybody, Nick Loper here. Welcome to the Side Hustle Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is episode 72, How to Earn a Full-Time Living Buying and Selling on Craigslist. My guest today is Ryan Finlay, who is the man when it comes to running a Craigslist side hustle or Craigslist business. He's been doing it for years. He runs the blog Craigslist.com. Somebody I've wanted to get on the show for a really long time, pretty much since day one. So thanks to Bob from Strategics Designs, Strategics with an X, for making that happen and kind of lighting the fire to reach out and make this thing a reality. So cool thing about this one is part-time, full-time, spare time, no technical skills or experience required for this side hustle. There's a local Craigslist or an equivalent, I'm sure, in just about every city on the planet. So it's a pretty universal opportunity. And all the show notes, links, plus a free downloadable PDF with all my notes and highlights are at sidehustlenation.com/episode 72, or in the description section of your podcast player app. You'll be able to get that stuff there as well. Now, news and updates before we get into it. Looking for some feedback on something. I'm thinking of starting a new case study project, which would be building an authority site from scratch. And I'm thinking of taking a small group of side hustlers along with me, going through each step of the process, from idea to research to setup to marketing to monetization. And this may coincide. So we've got a new Inner Circle mastermind class starting in October, which again, this is a weekly group that's capped at 6 people, hosted weekly by me. And so this is kind of the thing. Like, if you're looking to kickstart your business in 2015 and kind of get a head start on the next year, and if you're interested in building this kind of long-term asset, maybe that'll be the focus of the mastermind. If that's the direction we want to go, because very much is your group. But, if that sounds interesting, looking for some feedback on that idea, nick@sidehustlenation.com. You can send me an email or just hit apply at sidehustlenation.com/join. Either way, this is about, action, accountability, investing in yourself and your business growth. So again, sidehustlenation.com/join if that's something that sounds interesting to you, or any feedback on the authority site from scratch case study project. If that sounds interesting, if you want to be a part of it, hit me up, man. Let me know. Okay, and with that, you ready? Let's get Ryan on the line and learn about this Craigslist biz. Hey Ryan, welcome to the Side Hustle Show.
Hey, good to be here, Nick.
Ryan Finlay makes a full-time living buying and selling items on Craigslist, and he runs the popular blog Craigslist.com, and also teaches others how they can get in the game at applianceschool.com. This is a fascinating business to me, the whole idea of just buying and selling on this marketplace. And I guess let's start with the basics. How did you get into this, and how does it work?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was probably about four or 5 years ago. I basically decided that in the long term I didn't want to be a contractor, and I was looking for another business to get into, and I really had absolutely no idea what way to go. I wanted to be in business, but yeah.
I think a lot of people are in the same shoes. Like, I would start a business if I only knew what to do.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was at. And I had a couple gracious friends of mine, and they invited me out to coffee one morning, and it's like, well, what are you going to do, Ryan? And I had that conversation with them, and they asked me if I had any ideas. And at that time, I'd bought and sold a few things on Craigslist, and it had always been something that really fascinated me, because you had access to so many people and so many different items. And I told them that I'd never tried it to really make a run of it, but I thought I might be able to pull it off, making a living at it. And, it kind of brought their eyebrows up. But the cool thing was they're like, well, let's give it a shot then. And, basically those two friends of mine kept me accountable. They had me like email them every single day for almost 6 months, telling them like what I bought, what I sold, and how much time I spent on it, just to make sure that I was, I stayed committed to it, and I really put the time and effort into it, to succeed. So
I love it. A couple months ago, Chandler Bolt mentioned on the podcast the importance of having an accountability buddy, and I think he trademarked that term or something. But and so like this is like the extreme example of that, like a daily accountability email. Really, really cool. Like walk me through the process. If I'm looking at Craigslist, so in San Francisco it's big, so there's like 5 different ones. So Craigslist East Bay, for example, what do I look for, or what did you start looking for?
Yeah, well, to go back to the story, like the first day I started, I literally I got on, and I was just kind of scavenging around for anything that I saw that was undervalued or underpriced, and that I thought I could make a little bit of money on, and that's how it started. I just started buying as many things as I could, and then cleaning them up, fixing them at certain times, and selling them for as much as I could, and yeah, so you really have to, in the beginning, you really have to start with what because that's where, if you recognize when something's underpriced, that's when there's an opportunity to make a little money on it. So, and then as time goes on, you start realizing which items are the most profitable, which ones have the most demand, which items have the most supply, and you can start specializing a little bit more. So in your case, starting with what you knew, that was items from construction business, or yeah, it was. There were some power tools, electronics. Oh man, what were some of those early items? Yeah, there's TVs, Bose stuff. I used to really be into home theater stuff, so I would do a lot of buying and selling of just items that I was really interested in, that I picked up. They're like hobbies over the years. So, and then, as time, if I couldn't find something, and there was something I didn't really know, at that point I was forced to do research. So you're like, oh man, this kind of looks like it's a good deal, but I have no idea. So then you're just kind of forced to research one item at a time. And that's where your knowledge base of other markets and niches starts to grow. And so
okay, so walk me through. So you see a listing for a certain power tool. You say, hey, this looks like a good deal. This looks like an attractive buy. What's the process look like from there?
Yeah, so it helps to know exactly how much the item costs new. So okay, this person's selling it for $50 and it sells for $150 new. So okay, there's $100 there. How much is someone going to be willing to pay for it? So that's a good starting place. And then from there, like good name brands, higher quality items, they tend to have the biggest demand. So you're going to be able to get more money for them. So yeah, and at that point you have to find out what the market's willing to pay for it. So yeah, if it's
so before calling up the seller, you'll look for so you're looking also on Craigslist for the I guess comparable sales, or on eBay or something else.
Yeah, you can for if it's one specific item, yeah, you can do a quick search. Like if it was in tools, for example, you do a quick search and find out how many of that particular item is for sale, and what's the average price going for. And you can really quickly tell, if there's a ton of them up for $100 to $125 and someone else posted it for $40, that, okay, that's a little outlier and there's money to be made there, as long as there's nothing wrong with it. So then that's when you start, you email the seller or call the seller and you start asking questions and you basically go from there.
Do you find it's better to email or call?
It depends on how good of a deal it is. There's I do a lot of appliances. So if somebody underprices, a washer and dryer set by $300, it's going to get picked up pretty quickly. And if you email, someone else is going to call. So
Okay.
yeah, the odds of you losing the item go up significantly if you try to email on a really good, on a really good deal, basically.
So at what point, and so say you've got this attractive deal, you make the acquisition, do you negotiate with the guy typically for like, if he's listed it for $50 and you think maybe I could sell this for $100, do you try and negotiate down from that point?
I basically, so my rule on negotiating is that if it's not worth me picking it up, if they won't go down on the price when I get there, then I need to negotiate the price before I go. So, at that point I'd offer them a lower amount over the phone, or typically if an item's posted for not a very good deal, like it's not a really low price, I do a lot of emailing people offers, just because it gets old calling, hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Offering them. It's just, it's just not that fun of a thing. So, and as you get into the business and your inventory goes up, your need for you don't have to score every single good deal on there. So it's easier just to shoot out a bunch of offers, and if, some people take them, some people won't. So,
at what point?
In general, and then once I get there, I usually won't. I usually, and this is me personally. Other people, there's a lot of other people that they're going to be a lot more aggressive. But if I show up and the items, in the condition that they advertise it as, and I'm getting a good deal, and I know I'm going to make a profit on it, I usually won't try to get them down anymore. And primarily I'm just not interested in having. I don't want the sellers to be all bummed out every single time, because if you're doing this for a living, like you don't want to have like your day filled with like awkward conversations, and like, at least I don't. Like that's I'm not interested in that. And so
yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, hey, if you're gonna make a little margin, there's no reason to really like beat somebody up over it.
Exactly.
At what point did you realize, hey, this could be a full-time thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was, pretty early on. I knew that I could scrape together a whole bunch of different items, and I could make a living at it. Selling, say it was 4 or 5 lower priced items. But it wasn't until I started picking up a couple bigger ticket items, and in particular, appliances was one of the big early on items that happened to, where I made, I had sold a refrigerator and made like $350 on it.
Okay.
And I can't remember if it was a washer and dryer, but it was another item I made over $100 on, and that was real early on. And once that happened, it sinks in that you just made, especially on the fridge, you made more than a day. You made a couple of days' wages, like on that one sale, and you're like, and it only took like an hour or an hour and a half, picking it up and then reselling it. That's when it became pretty obvious that, well, if I just repeat this process and get better at it, like this could turn into pretty easily a full-time gig. So
yeah, that's the fascinating thing. It's like the potential there. Like, it only takes like a sale a day, or a sale every couple of days if it's going to be a big margin sale like that. Do you have any strategies to filter out like all of the, because Craigslist obviously has not updated their interface in 15 years. Like, how do you filter out like all of the nonsense that's on there to find the stuff that's like worth your time?
Yeah. I used to work at a bank, and they were training me how to detect counterfeit money. They gave me an interesting piece of advice, and it was the best way to detect counterfeit money was handling real money a lot.
Okay.
And that it really is the same thing for filtering out good sellers, bad sellers, good deals, bad deals. I can look at 100 Craigslist ads and like on certain pages in like a minute or 30 seconds.
Yeah, just gotta take some practice.
Yeah, the more that you see, the more ads you see, the more ads you read, the more items you inquire about. every time you're learning something. You're learning something about, it's almost like a poker, the little tells where they're giving away information, and you subconsciously, like, you see it, you're like, oh, they left this out. You notice how they said it works, the item works, but they won't say that it works really well. Like, or they say, and that's very common for appliances. Like a washing machine might work, but it really doesn't function as it's supposed to. So it's basically broken, but
but it works. Okay.
Yeah, and they hide that in the language, and over time you get to the point where it becomes really easy just to filter everything out, and yeah.
Interesting. So for the appliance thing, it sounds like, there's going to be some equipment required, perhaps a truck to go pick these things up, and maybe some startup capital required too. So you're going to have to pay for the inventory up front before you can turn around and flip it. And so maybe you can kind of, you can reinvest that cash as you earn it, but it's not something that you can totally start with zero investment, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I wrote a post about this, like how to start from zero. I think it was a year or two ago. And it was the hypothetical question, like, if you had absolutely nothing, how could you start? Well, in particular, it was the appliance business. And I talked about like going to the public library and using the internet there to find deals. And you would need to figure out how to get a bike. And then once you had a bike, you get one of those little trailers to pull behind the bike. And you could put a washer and dryer on the trailer and strap it on. And
okay.
Anyways, but that's the extreme case. But really, like, what it takes to at least getting started in the appliance niche is you need to be able to transport the items back and forth. And there's people that use a Honda Civics with little tiny tow hitches on them with little utility trailers pulling behind them. Subarus, most appliances can fit on their side inside just a lot of little SUVs, like the little Subarus and the little station wagon type cars.
Okay.
Any truck, in most vans, you can take the seats out. So, I mean, basically, if there's a will, there's a way when it comes to items like that. You just have to, you have to be willing to make it work. So.
It's pretty fascinating. Do you have like a rule of thumb, like how far you're willing to drive for a particular item?
That it kind of changes over time. When you're first starting out and you have no inventory, or you're first starting out and you have no money and you're just like, or you need to make money quick, you just have to do what you have to do. So if there's a pickup 45 minutes or an hour away, even you're going to risk a little bit more. But the thing is, you can't be real picky when you're first starting out, especially if you're supporting a family or you're just about broke. And that's basically how I started. But gradually over time, you can start becoming more picky, and that's, I won't travel. I probably don't. I will still drive out 45 minutes each way if it's a washer and a dryer, or there's a couple appliances that I'm picking up, and where I'm going to make about $100 each on the machine. So, you kind of just come up with a formula with like, okay, how much exactly am I going to make on this? And then you just kind of like, well, okay, is it worth a couple hours of my time and $20 in gas if I'm going to make $200? And then you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, that kind of brings up a good point. What would be a target like hourly wage for somebody kind of starting out on this?
I would say the easiest thing is to compare it to what the person's already making, or what what their other options are.
Yeah.
So if they're thinking, oh man, do I want to go back to this $12 an hour job? Well, can you make $150 on Craigslist? And how long would it take you to do that? And so the target really, I think the easiest way is just compare it to what what a person's used to making. And but
like you said, if you had that $100 deal that took you 2 hours, that's a pretty good hourly rate for a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when I first started. I wasn't really focused so much on the hourly rate as I was how much I was making per day. And I just like, well, how much do I need? Well, I think I can get by. I can pay all our expenses, $100 a day. Profit.
Okay.
That's what I did, and that was real easy. And I really forced myself to make that $100 every single day. And even if I had to like really drop the price on stuff, and to get, to hit that $100. But it really didn't. It forced me to be real disciplined about it. So
I like it. Is this like an all cash business?
Yeah, like 90. There's the sweet grandmas that get on Craigslist every once in a while and they'll want to pay with check.
Yeah.
You got to be careful with that. But yeah, it's almost universally known that everyone pays with cash. And
are you running this all out of your garage? Like, what's your garage look like? Is it like stacked to the ceiling with washers and dryers, or do you have like a warehouse or something?
Yeah, it's just out of my garage at this point. And when I first started out and I was doing all sorts of stuff, my wife got on me a little bit because it started getting a little, like, I'd start bringing home like furniture and like bookcases and
what do people say when they roll up? They're like, "Oh, this guy's like a dealer."
Yeah. Well, so I got real. I'm also somewhat of a. I'm a neat freak. I don't like messes all over the place. So I got that under control pretty quickly. Or like if I had stuff stashed around all over the place, I would deal with it pretty quickly. So, but yeah, people do. When someone rolls up and I've got 16 appliances in my garage, which is somewhat common. It's very apparent that so you do this a lot. I see,
Yeah.
and then that's just my invitation to tell them a little bit of the story and tell them about what I do and what I do to the machines and it's really cool. Like I've sold over 3,000 appliances and
wow.
I've literally never once had a person find out that I was doing this as a business and walk off. Like they always, people really appreciate you. Just be honest with them. Just tell them, this is what I do for a living. And, people can be pretty cool.
Are there has that like spawned any competition? Like as people show up, it's like, oh, maybe that gets people like scratching their heads. Maybe I should get into this as well.
There's
well, now you're selling the course. Like, are you like? Is there a risk of like shooting yourself in the foot, like by opening the gates to like kind of like the behind the scenes of this business?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Again, the advice that I got goes back to my good friend Chris that he gave me when I first started out, and I asked him, I was like, well, because I was starting to blog about it, because and sharing what I've been learning over it on my blog, and I was like, well, what do you think? Should I be sharing my secrets about like how I've been able to be successful at this? And one of his main points was that don't try to hide it from everybody. Don't try to. There's no point in keeping all your secrets to yourself, just because because it's basically his point was it's still hard work, and there's you can teach 1,000 people how to do something, and then the reality is that most people there's a very, very few amount of people that are willing to put in the hard work that it takes to make it happen, and then to be persistent, like to get through the hard times, so, and I totally see that, like, just because someone else sees that you've got a good thing going and there's opportunity there, it's definitely not, that doesn't translate into all of a sudden everyone starts to go out and tries to do it.
Right.
So,
right.
Unless it's really, really easy, and then you got to be worried.
Right. There's still some hustle involved, as with anything.
Yeah, exactly. I tend to kind of wash over some of the hard work a lot, but it definitely is hard work. So
I think you posted a video, this was probably a few months ago, it was like how to lift a washer or how to lift a washing machine or something, and then it's just you like going world's strongest man and like dragging it up. I was like, okay, that's pretty badass.
The funny, I'd actually, I'm going to give you the secret on that one. This is out my video. We'd taken the motor out on that. I think it was a dryer. And so I took the motor out on that. And so it made the, like, whatever, 20 pounds lighter.
Okay.
So it was a little bit lighter than normal, but yeah.
Like I couldn't even get my arms, like I was impressed. So a friend of mine was flipping iPhones a year or two ago.
Yeah.
And he made that into a full-time business. So like there's some opportunity in different things, and that's maybe an example of something that's a little more value dense, right? It's like you don't need a truck, right? You can just go and pick up a phone from somebody.
Yeah.
And so just kind of curious, like aside, you found a good niche in the appliance business, but any other product categories that seem interesting, or any of your other like blog followers have found to be lucrative?
Yeah. I've heard of a lot of people doing bikes. Bikes are a big one. Just their popularity is taking off. They can be really expensive. I mean, you can get into the thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
For the different types of bikes, and then they also get moved around a lot. You know, people buy them for a season, and all of a sudden they move to another state, sell, or they graduate from college and they sell it, and so anyways, there's a lot of bikes moving around. So bikes is one. I'm really big into the necessities. Furniture is the big one. There's a lot of money to be made in furniture.
Do you ever find any gold like in the free section? So when we were moving the last time, I think we put one of our dressers up for free because it was kind of like broken on the bottom. But then this dude showed up, and he had like a 16 passenger van, but it was completely filled with it was 9 o'clock at night after we were moving, and this was like his last stop for the day, and it looked like he had just gone, like he had spent his day like collecting stuff on Craigslist, and I was like, oh, I wonder if this is like his business. I was kind of excited for it.
Yeah. So the free section, let me give you a couple tips on the free section. Here in Portland, anyways, and I'm sure it's pretty similar everywhere else. There's so much gold on the free section, especially in bigger cities where there's lots of money. There's like here, I know for a fact there's hundreds and hundreds of people sitting on there all day long hitting refresh. And one of the ways the way I first found that out was like 3 years ago, somebody gave away a broken LCD TV, like a 42-inch LCD TV.
Okay.
And I was the first to respond. I said, I'll take it. I can come over, pick it up right now. What's your address? And then a couple minutes later, the guy responded and said, okay, here's my address. And I drove straight over there. By the time that I'd gotten to the guy's place, he'd gotten 95 emails.
Oof. And
that was just within 25 minutes.
Wow.
Of the ad going up. And here's the thing. That's 95 emails. And there's a lot of the people that do it regularly aren't going to email after like the first 5-10 minutes, because they know that once that ad's up for even a couple minutes on the free section, it's gone.
Okay.
So it was still getting tons and tons of emails long afterwards. And anyways, all that to say, like that LCD TV, I sold it to a TV repair guy a couple days later for almost $100. And there's, if you combine the value of all the items that are given away on the free section every day, it's pretty incredible. So there's, the downside, one of the reasons I don't spend a lot of time on the free section is just because you end up all over the place. Like my house would look like a a pawn shop. I mean, I'd have couches, crazy furniture, appliances, and there has to be a place to store all this stuff. And all those different items, they sell at different rates. So you might get a couch that'll take a month to sell, or 2 weeks or something, and you have to sit on it, like literally.
Yeah.
Living room, and you'd have to use it for a couple weeks.
Yeah. So there's some gold to be had, but competition is stiff. You got to be really quick on the trigger finger on that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
That always fascinating me. It's like, well, here's a source of inventory has like a zero cost of goods sold, like on your line item. It's like that's an amazing margin. You could have that in any business, but
here's one more real quick tip with that, because it's really hard to beat everybody. You can't, like, if you focus on it, you can become the fastest person. So that being said, if you're not the fastest person, decide how much that item's worth to you. So if somebody's giving away a bike that needs a new tire because it's flat and it's a nice bike, they're giving it away for free, shoot them an email saying with the amount that you'd be willing to give them in the subject of the email. So say, I would love to have this bike. I will give you $20 for it. It's an amazing thing will happen. Like, you will often get the item, even if you were like the 30th person to respond.
Oh,
because
okay.
it communicates to the person giving the item away that you value it more than anyone else, and they appreciate the token of you being willing to give them a little bit of money for it. So I've gotten a ton of things like that, and it's just because, hey, I'm willing to give money for this because it's worth that much to me. So
okay, that makes sense. Cool. Any way to scale this up? Like, how do you keep track of your inventory, or all of the ads that you've got to keep posting and responding to? It seems pretty labor intensive on that front.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if there's an easy way to scale it up, because it's still because whenever you're dealing with used goods, there's so much variance in what you're buying and selling, and the condition, and how to inspect. And if once you start to scale, you have to get more people involved, and then that creates I think it's possible to scale it. Like, it's possible to start multiple operations in multiple cities where you have one guy kind of manning I could probably run it in multiple cities. Where it becomes difficult is the amount of time and energy managing all the people in all those places.
Ever thought of having a virtual assistant, like do the initial outreach or something? Like if hey, kind of train them in your system to spot what deals look good, and hey, you can send this initial feeler email to see what, if it's still available or what the price might be.
I've thought about it, and again, I think a lot of this can go back to it can get back into how much money you really want to make from it. If you really want to make a lot of money at it, absolutely, it would be getting a virtual assistant or getting a person to work with you, and then you have to be willing to either pay someone to do a ton of pickups, and or you have to be willing to do all those pickups yourself, because you really once you're at that scale, you're going to be driving around all day long. Right. Because pretty much if you do, so it's definitely possible. I just personally, with my family and just, I've kind of, from the outset, I set to build this business up to kind of, to build it around my lifestyle, not my lifestyle around my work. And because of that, it's kept me in check. I'm not working 10, 12 hours a day anymore. And,
that's good. Now, what would be the point of running your own business if it's running you into the ground? So that's a good lesson. That's probably a good place to move towards wrapping things up as well. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing this really fascinating business that literally every town has a Craigslist. So there's no excuse not to at least check this one out and get into it. You can check Ryan out at Craigslist.com. And if you're interested in learning how he does it, the inside nuts and bolts, it's applianceschool.com. And Ryan, we'll wrap things up with your number one tip for Side Hustle Nation.
Yeah, I would say my biggest tip would just be some of the best opportunities that you're going to find in business are going to be found once you've already started moving in a direction. Very infrequently do you see incredible opportunities before you even start. And pretty much everything that's happened around this business, the appliance school, all the training, everything that's come out of my buying and selling on Craigslist, they were just opportunities that just kept presenting themselves after I had started and after I'd put in a bunch of hard work. And so, I just want to encourage your listeners and just to get moving, start going down a direction, try to get something to work, and then just keep your eyes open for opportunities along the way. So
thank you for that. That's actually really powerful. I've never heard it phrased that way, but I totally agree with what you're saying. The best opportunities are found once you're already in motion. I think that's really, really cool. Ryan, thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Nick.
This edition of the Side Hustle Show is brought to you by the Side Hustle Nation Inner Circle Mastermind Group, now accepting applications for a small group starting in October. And we may focus again on that authority site from scratch idea, tactic, if that's kind of, if we get a critical mass of interest in that particular side hustle opportunity. But you just heard Ryan say the best opportunities are found once you're already in motion. And what better way to accelerate that motion than to surround yourself with other side hustlers and other entrepreneurs working toward similar goals? Learn more at sidehustlenation.com/join and whack the big orange apply now button to get in touch. We'll set up a quick intro call to see what you're working on, if this group is going to be a good fit. Again, sidehustlenation.com/join. But this concept, it actually was really, really good because I never heard this one before, through 70-something episodes. But it reminds me of, when I was running the painting business in college, and all of a sudden, my business classes, my sales and marketing classes, all of a sudden made so much more sense when I had something concrete to apply them to. And I think it made the education stick so much better. And just, motion breeds motion, action breeds action. I really like that. So make sure to grab your free downloadable PDF with all my notes and highlights from this conversation with Ryan at sidehustlenation.com/episode 73, or just in the episode description of your podcast player app. Should be able to grab it there too. Anyways, a big weekend coming up. This is my public speaking debut at the local TEDx conference. I know, deep breaths, nervous and excited for it. So wish me luck, but can't wait to share the message with you in the video with you once that's all ready. So I'm going to be doing my few last minute rehearsals, and then it's go time. So until next time, go out there, make something happen, and I'll see you next week in episode 73.
Thanks for listening to The Side Hustle Show at www.sidehustlenation.com.